You're disrespectful to women. For real, you're probably the Jeffrey Epstein of hip-hop.
Sean Diddy Combs was denied bail for the third time, a federal judge saying that the government had proven by clear and convincing evidence that there were no conditions of release that would ensure the safety of the community.
In a stunning turn of events, one of the most influential figures in entertainment, Sean Diddy Combs, now finds himself behind bars at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. The mogul who once dominated music, fashion, and luxury has become a mere shadow of his former self locked in an orange jumpsuit, subsisting on instant noodles, and grappling with inner demons far more terrifying than any rival he's faced. But this isn't just a tale of a celebrity's fall from grace. It's a chilling and complex story of paranoia, hidden power struggles, and a suffocating burden of secrets that may prove to be more than Diddy can handle.
If you're just joining us here, was just arrested and taken into federal custody in New York tonight. Sources tell TMZ Homeland Security swooped into a Midtown hotel late Monday where Diddy was staying, and they arrested him.
When news broke that Diddy had been placed on suicide watch, the world was left in shock. How could someone who once radiated unshakable confidence, a man who rubbed elbows with presidents and hosted lavish parties for millions, have fallen? So far, the answer goes beyond the charges against him. It lies in the devastating psychological toll of losing everything in an instant. Sources close to the case revealed that when Diddy first arrived at the detention center, he seemed almost in disbelief, as if his fame alone could somehow shield him. But reality struck hard, and it hit fast. The Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center is far from the world of luxury Diddy was accustomed to. It's a cold, relentless place where even the most powerful can be humbled. As soon as Diddy entered the facility, the change was apparent. The man who once walked confidently down red carpets and boarded private jets with a crew of loyal followers was nowhere to be found. In his place was a shaken figure, visibly struggling with the harshness of his new surroundings. Eyewitnesses recalled him hunched over during intake, his designer suit wrinkled and out of place in such an unforgiving setting. His flawless exterior was replaced by exhaustion, and a profound sense of disbelief seemed to follow him. For those who had known him, it was almost unimaginable. Diddy, the icon of swagger, reduced to just another face in the crowded, grim world of the detention center.
I mean, it's a legitimate concern. You know, no judge wants to wake up and read the headlines the next day. Oh, they treated this guy special and they gave him bond, and now he's gone and he fled from justice. So that's what's in the back of most judges' minds. On the other hand, you know, we deal with cases where clients have significant funds sometimes. And sometimes where there's money, you can craft a unique solution. You know, years ago it was the ankle bracelet and the ankle monitor.
The day Diddy arrived at the detention center, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Guards exchanged quiet whispers, fully aware that this was no ordinary inmate. The other prisoners watched with a mix of curiosity and contempt. For many, Diddy wasn't a star to admire, he was a cautionary tale. The rumors about his charges, his extravagant lifestyle, and the speculation about how long he'd last in such a harsh environment spread like wildfire. It wasn't just the inmates who were on edge. Veteran guards also acknowledged the difficulty of managing such a high-profile detainee. "He's not safe here," one officer was overheard saying, though it was unclear whether he meant from others or from himself. The first few days were marked by stark contrasts. On one hand, Diddy tried to project an air of control. He moved through the facility with his head held high, attempting to convince both himself and everyone around him that he could handle the situation. He spoke to the guards with the same commanding tone he likely used in business meetings, even making requests for accommodations that no one in his position would typically expect. But beneath this facade, the cracks were already starting to show. Observers noted that his confidence felt forced, a fragile mask that barely covered the fear and uncertainty simmering beneath the surface.
It's just interesting to me that with all the money he has and all the resources he has, they couldn't craft some solution that lets him be under some form of house arrest. And again, it sounds like special treatment, but the truth of the matter is, to incarcerate somebody like him is expensive to all of us. We're taxpayers, and he's got to have unique situations. You can't put him in general population where, you know, everyone wants a piece of him and everyone wants to be his friend and everyone.
Mealtimes quickly became a point of contention for Diddy. Reports emerged that he was refusing the standard prison meals, citing concerns that they might be tampered with. One former inmate turned consultant offered insight on a podcast, speculating, "You've made enemies everywhere. You really don't think someone might try to get to you in here?" The comment struck a chord, and the rumors about Diddy's growing paranoia spread fast. Rather than eating with the other inmates, he reportedly relied on commissary snack chips, honey buns, and bottled water, but even those small comforts didn't seem to ease his anxiety. Guards observed him inspecting every item carefully. Before eating, as if searching for signs of contamination, the tension was palpable, and it seemed to tighten its grip on him more and more with each passing day.
Well, Sierra, anything's possible, right? But now this judge has an even harder time, I think, because the past judge locked him up, didn't let him out, and he's still there available for trial. If the new judge lets him out on bond and something goes wrong, and this isn't the analysis that I'm proud to make, right? We shouldn't be saying, well, judges are worried about their own skin and how they look if something bad happens.
Diddy's physical transformation was almost immediate by the time of his first court appearance. Just weeks into his incarceration, those who saw him were taken aback. The robust, impeccably groomed mogul the world had come to know seemed to vanish overnight. In his place stood a man who looked visibly thinner, with his hair streaked with gray, eyes hollow and bloodshot. "It's shocking," one journalist remarked. This was a man who spent decades projecting invincibility. And now you can see the toll it's taking on him. The contrast was jarring, especially when compared to footage just months earlier, where Diddy was seen laughing and playing hacky sack in Central Park with friends. The person standing in court now was still recognizable, but barely. His former self seemed a distant memory. It wasn't just the physical decline that captured attention. It was the psychological unraveling unfolding before everyone's eyes. Paranoia had become his constant companion. Sources inside the prison reported that Diddy was frequently seen looking over his shoulder, even when surrounded by guards. He kept to himself, avoiding interactions with other inmates whenever he could. Then there were the whispers, those suggesting a deeper, more unsettling fear. "He keeps saying they're watching him," one guard reportedly said, though Diddy never clarified who they were. The paranoia reached a new level after his third bail attempt was denied. By this point, he'd already been turned down twice. But insiders say he truly believed the third time would be different. With a team of top-tier lawyers fighting for him, he was convinced they'd secure his release. When the denial came down, his reaction stunned everyone. There were no outbursts, no angry displays. Instead, Diddy seemed to fold inward. Witnesses described him sitting silently in the courtroom, hands clasped in front of him, eyes fixed on a distant point, as if the fight had been completely drained from him.
They're going to try everything. They're going to try to transfer him. They're going to try to get him out. In a normal case where it's a high-profile person or a well-funded person, the prosecution and the judge is a little bit more concerned about a wrongful prosecution, because people that are mad that they're being arrested for a crime they didn't commit can turn around and file for malicious prosecution.
Back at the detention center, the fallout from the bail denial was swift and intense. Guards reported hearing Diddy pacing his cell late into the night, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the hallways. "This isn't how it's supposed to go," he was overheard muttering, his voice thick with disbelief. At one point, he reportedly slammed his fists against the wall of his cell, shouting in a desperate cry, "They lied to me." The outburst reverberated through the facility, leaving inmates speculating about what or who he was referring to. Then came the sock incident, which set off a storm of rumors and whispers. One morning, guards found Diddy slumped on the floor of his cell with a sock loosely tied around his neck. It was quickly classified as a self-harm attempt, but questions remained. For one, the sock wasn't tied tightly enough to cause any significant damage, leading some to believe it was more of a cry for help than a serious attempt on his life. Others, however, weren't so convinced. "That's not how someone like him does it." One inmate reportedly said if he wanted out, he'd find a way. This was about sending a message.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there,
Theories exploded in the wake of the sock incident. Some believed it was a calculated move in attempt to get transferred to a medical ward, where conditions might be more comfortable or lenient. Others saw it as a sign that Diddy was finally buckling under the crushing pressure of his circumstances. But the most unsettling theory, the one whispered behind closed doors, was that the sock wasn't Diddy's idea at all. Rumors began to circulate that someone within the facility, or perhaps someone with power outside of it, had staged the incident as a warning. "He's got too many enemies, not just in here," one guard was overheard saying. The sock incident marked a clear turning point. In the days that followed, Diddy's demeanor visibly shifted. The once confident mogul, who had carried himself with an air of defiance, now seemed withdrawn. His movement slowed. His gaze became distant. He stopped speaking to the guards, and the restless pacing through his cell at night ceased. It was as though he had fully accepted his new reality, a man deeply aware of the weight of his situation. What had begun as hushed whispers soon snowballed into full-blown conspiracies within the walls of Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. Was it a genuine cry for help, a strategic move to manipulate the system? Or was something darker at play, orchestrated by unseen forces? The truth seemed to hover somewhere between conflicting accounts, elusive and fragmented, but one thing was undeniable: Diddy's world was crumbling and the entire world was watching.
And I understand that he has a shrink coming by his cell to see him several times a day. And now there's talk about putting him in, it's like a bubble. It's like a cell that has like a plexiglass wall in it where they have inmates watching you. That's actually their job, to keep an eye on the inmates that are on suicide watch.
The days following the sock incident were thick with tension. Diddy's once commanding presence had all but disappeared. He spoke barely a word, kept his head low, and avoided making eye contact with both guards and inmates. His usual pacing had stopped, replaced by long, silent hours spent sitting on the edge of his cot, staring at the wall as though searching for answers. This was a stark contrast to the man who had, just weeks earlier, walked through the prison with an air of nearly delusional invincibility. Now, he seemed haunted by what or who, no one could say for sure. But the rumors didn't die down. If anything, they only grew more intense. The most chilling whispers revolved around something called the list, a supposed document Diddy was rumored to either possess or know about, containing the names of high-profile individuals tied to his vast empire. According to prison gossip, this list wasn't just a career-ending liability, it was a ticking time bomb. Some claimed it included powerful figures from politics, business, and entertainment, people who would go to any lengths to make sure it never saw the light of day. Whether the list was real or just a product of paranoia didn't matter. The very thought of it was enough to keep everyone on edge, spreading a growing sense of dread throughout the facility.
Okay, some people do think that Diddy can help him, but this guy's going to be locked up forever. His case will probably take at least 3 years to litigate. He'll stay at MDC. There's rumors that he wants to go to Essex County Jail in New Jersey because he doesn't like MDC. He's a Marshall's inmate. There's no way they're going to transfer him back and forth, I don't know, several times a week.
Wait a minute. Say that again. Say that again. Back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes, but
yes.
The shopping thing is...
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood. But one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of.
The guards were on high alert, already dealing with the logistical challenges of housing a celebrity inmate. The added tension surrounding Diddy's rumored knowledge only made their jobs more complicated. One guard was overheard telling a colleague, "If that list is real, we've got a target sitting in Subblock B." This wasn't just idle talk. Extra precautions were immediately put in place, and every one of Diddy's movements was closely monitored. Even routine tasks like transferring him to the visitation area or the infirmary were carried out with an added layer of security. Meanwhile, Diddy's behavior only intensified the unease. He grew more reclusive by the day, refusing to leave his cell even during recreation time. When guards tried to encourage him to get some fresh air, he reportedly muttered that he didn't feel safe outside. Safe from what or whom? His paranoia seemed to be slowly consuming him, and it didn't take long for the inmates to notice. "He's scared of something," one inmate confided to a prison consultant. who later discussed it on a podcast. You can see it in his eyes. Whatever's going on in his head, it's eating him alive.
It sounds like there was probably a lot of hidden cameras as well. Is that what is being talked about?
Yes, this was actually in his Atlanta home, at a home he had in Atlanta at one point. And it does seem that the person isn't like looking into the video, so to me, doesn't seem like that person knows they're being videotaped. It doesn't seem like they're active participant in the videotaping.
Theories about who might be targeting Diddy grew more numerous with each passing day. Some inmates speculated that his powerful enemies were using their influence to make sure he never saw the light of day again. Others believed the sock incident wasn't a self-inflicted act but a message sent from someone else. This theory wasn't as far-fetched as it might seem. The Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center had long been plagued by corruption, with both guards and inmates caught smuggling contraband or acting as pawns for outside forces. It wasn't hard to imagine that someone with the right connections could orchestrate something from behind the scenes. Then there was Diddy's refusal to eat. His paranoia about being poisoned had reached disturbing levels. He turned down all meals provided by the prison, surviving on a sparse diet of prepackaged commissary snacks. But even those weren't exempt from his intense scrutiny. One guard described watching Diddy carefully open a bag of chips, shaking the contents onto a napkin and inspecting each individual piece before taking a bite. The lengths he went to in order to avoid potential danger made it clear his fear was slowly consuming him.
Realm, this is very significant just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
Despite his deteriorating physical condition, Diddy's mind seemed to remain sharp, though increasingly erratic. He was often seen scribbling in a small notebook, but no one knew exactly what he was writing. Some believed it was a journal, a way for him to process his thoughts, while others speculated that it might contain the infamous list, or at least clues about its existence. Regardless of its contents, the notebook became an object of fascination for both inmates and guards, a symbol of mystery and potential power. As Diddy's trial, scheduled for May 2025, drew nearer, it promised to become one of the most sensational legal spectacles in recent history. Legal experts predicted a media frenzy, with every detail of his personal and professional life laid bare for the world to dissect. But for those inside the detention center, the trial was secondary to the drama unfolding within its walls. The real question wasn't whether Diddy would be found guilty or innocent. It was whether he'd even make it to the courtroom at all.
I think it's to be expected, just the shock of this and the questions about what is ahead of us. How long is he going to be in custody? Is this an R. Kelly situation? Is he going to not get out for a number of years? Is he going to end up serving a long-term prison sentence from this? Or does he have a chance of beating these charges at a trial that could come?
As the weeks passed, Diddy's health became an escalating concern. Observers noted that he seemed thinner and more frail with each day that went by. His once vibrant complexion had turned pale, almost ghostly, and his movements had slowed to a near shuffle. While some attributed his decline to the stress of his situation, others suspected something more sinister at play. Rumors began to circulate that he was being deliberately weakened, whether through poisoned food, psychological manipulation, or some other means, though there was no solid proof to back up these claims. In a volatile environment like the detention center, speculation didn't need evidence to take hold. Then came a particularly unsettling incident during a routine head count. When the guards reached Diddy's cell, they found him sitting on the floor, staring blankly at the wall. When asked if he was okay, he reportedly mumbled something incoherent before lapsing back into silence. The guards exchanged uneasy glances but continued with their duties. Still, the moment lingered in their minds, leaving an unsettling impression. The inmates, too, began to pull away from Diddy. At first, his high-profile status had sparked a certain curiosity, but as his paranoia deepened and his behavior became more erratic, that curiosity turned into discomfort. No one wanted to be associated with him, not because of his fame, but because of the perceived danger that came with it. The once fascinated crowd began to avoid him, as if distancing themselves from his unraveling situation was the safest option. Even Diddy's legal team appeared to be feeling the pressure. While they publicly insisted their client remained focused and determined, insiders suggested the opposite. One source close to the case described tense meetings in the visitation room where Diddy became increasingly agitated and distrustful even of his own lawyers. He thinks everyone's out to get him, the source revealed, even the people trying to help him. His paranoia reached new heights when he allegedly accused a guard of spying on him. During a routine cell check, witnesses say he became visibly upset, demanding to know why the guard was watching him. The guard, attempting to ease the tension, explained that it was standard procedure. But Diddy wasn't having it. "Don't think I don't know what's going on," he reportedly said, his voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. This outburst only reinforced the growing belief among both inmates and staff that Diddy was teetering on the edge of a breakdown. Yet, even amid his unraveling, there were fleeting moments that reminded everyone of the man he used to be. One evening, during a rare trip to the recreation yard, Diddy joined a group of inmates playing cards. For a brief moment, the tension in the air seemed to lift as he laughed and joked with the others, offering a glimpse of the charisma and confidence that once defined him. But as soon as the game ended, he retreated back to his cell, the weight of his reality quickly returning. As Diddy's story continues to unfold, more questions than answers remain. Was the sock incident a genuine cry for help, or was something darker at play? And what about the rumored list? Does it really exist? If so, who is willing to go to such lengths to keep it hidden? The comments section is open, and the audience is eager to share their theories. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and stay tuned for the next gripping update. The conversation is just getting started.